Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a Crypto Coffee Update episode. My name is Paul, and I'm bringing you the news, the conferences, events, all the good things you would like to see and know about in the crypto space for the next coming few days, till we get to do this all again. So, join me for a simultaneous sip. Fantastic. Always love waking up with a nice cup of coffee with you guys. All right, so let's go ahead and get into what we have happening. You can see here, Crypto Panic. Crypto Panic is a wonderful news aggregation source. If you're itching for some crypto information in between these Crypto Coffee episodes, you can check out here. They have all kinds of stuff like price action, news articles, and even subreddits for particular crypto. So really interesting stuff. Now, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the matter for the day. This episode is going to be primarily about Ethereum Classic and a deep chain reorganization that is occurring as we speak on their network. Now, there's a bit of a difference between a deep chain reorganization and a 51% attack. That's something we're also going to get into. We'll explain that. But for the sake of everybody out there who may or may not know what Ethereum Classic even is, we're going to briefly discuss the differences. Now, for the sake of brevity, we can't possibly talk about all of the differences and all of the historical context included here. However, this is just something I'd like to do to give everybody a wider context to help to contextualize some of the more temporally relevant information we'll be looking at today. So, briefly, Ethereum Classic versus Ethereum. Well, back in 2014, there was an ICO for Ethereum. They raised $18 million, and they launched what is now considered the most popular and widely used smart contract network in the world. However, it wasn't all rose-colored glasses and a beautiful way forward. There was a very rocky start. And in 2015, a project known as the DAO was launched. It is a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO, and it had a major issue with its code, which allowed a hacker to essentially drain tons and tons of tokens, almost 10, I think it was 10 to 12% of the total supply. Obviously not something that can be allowed, and so at the time, the Ethereum network was frozen for a brief period while developers and the community alike sussed out the best way forward. Now, this is where things ended up kind of splitting. The majority position was very happy to have a refund. They said, look, we'll have a hard fork, we'll act like this never happened, we'll learn from our mistakes, and we will move forward with the ecosystem restored as best as it could be. And there was a minority position, Ethereum Classic, that said, hey, we don't want that. We don't want to fork away, and this is because code is in a way law. And even though this is a detriment and really not what we wanted to have happen, this is, kind of a reduction in the supply, and we can just leave the wallet frozen. So realistically, we won't give people the refunds because this is just what decentralized governance is all about. And again, this is the minority position that became Ethereum Classic, since most people were pretty happy to have that refund. And so both of these ecosystems began to develop independently of one another. Now, I kind of view it as, think of them like identical twins, right? They look the same and they have the same origin. They're identical. However, maybe one of these twins, they have a kind of a rough situation. They get into a bar fight and they got a scar right here, and get a teardrop tattoo and long bushy hair. And then you have the other one that's maybe runs a hedge fund, crew cut, really well shaven, looks good, wears a three-piece suit, that kind of thing. These two individuals look extremely similar, but they're decidingly different. Now, I'm not saying it's one or the other. Maybe ETH is the one that's gotten into the bar fight, huh? But it's just an example to help to illustrate how these two projects have a common origin, but ended up taking completely different paths forward. So with that said, let's go ahead and explain exactly what's going on with the Ethereum Classic ecosystem leading up to this deep chain reorganization. Here's what's occurred just recently. In early December, the largest Ethereum Classic development branch, ETHDev, shut down due to a lack of funding. Now, this could be argued that it's fiduciary irresponsibility to a degree, since it seems like they just did not put enough money back to pay for their expenses to continue operations. Now, we all may dislike fiat here and want a revolutionary future, but it's important to manage these sorts of things in a sustainable way, and for the time being, having fiat reserves is arguably critical for the continuation of a project. So this is definitely can be perceived as irresponsible, but nobody has a crystal ball. I think the big takeaway, in my opinion, is that it's definitely a detriment for the Ethereum Classic ecosystem. And It definitely doesn't help that IOHK, which is Input Output Hong Kong, owned by Charles Hoskinson, the lead leader, I guess he's the leader from a public view, but he's also the CEO of Cardano, so that's pretty cool. He was working with Ethereum Classic as well with a development branch known as Mantis, and he's talking about potentially shutting Mantis down, again, due to a lack of funding. ETH, Ethereum, ended up having huge amounts of funding, public interest, and as previously stated, grew into the largest and predominant smart contract platform in the world. Ethereum Classic has lagged behind and has had a lot of issues with funding and, as can be seen, managing the funds that they receive in a sustainable way going forward. So this is another detriment and a blow to the Ethereum Classic community and development. Not only that, there was an attempt to take over Ethereum Classic, apparently. This is something that I really don't understand fully. I don't think anybody but the most diehard Ethereum Classic supporter or the team themselves understands it fully. Essentially, there was an issue with a GitHub. One new individual was allowed in with admin privileges and in turn kicked out all the other admins. It seems as though everything is settled now and all the dust is settled, everyone's happy, and the GitHub is now accessible again. However, suffice to say, this definitely is not a good look and demonstrates that if one individual can be allowed into a GitHub and in turn lock everybody else out, how decentralized is the decentralized development that has been occurring on the Ethereum Classic network. Now, I don't have a clear answer for that. Really, I'm just here putting out this information, and it's up to you to make your own decisions as to how this all fits together and how this can potentially fit into your own decisions. So take this for what it is. It's a pretty good article, gives a good breakdown, but again, doesn't illuminate everything. So next up, we have the meat of the matter and the story of the day, this deep chain reorganization. Now, I mentioned this is slightly different than a 51% attack, but before we get into that, let's talk about who's talking about this. This is Coinbase. Now, remember, Ethereum Classic previously was listed on Coinbase back in October, I believe it was. Everyone was quite happy to hear about it. And definitely not a good look since that time, unfortunately. This was noticed by Coinbase on the 5th, and it wasn't announced until the 7th. And this was something that was pointed out by YouTuber CryptoLark, so shout out to him. He does some great stuff, definitely worth taking a look at his channel. Really incestuous individual, has an objective perception of this kind of stuff as I see it, so at least objective as we can achieve as humans, right? Well, meat of the matter here, a deep chain reorganization is indeed occurring. What this means is, let's say I have 60% total hashing power over the Ethereum Classic network, and our blockchain is moving forward nicely, and we're on block 100. Well, because I have over 51% of that network hashing power, I can pick any block in history arbitrarily, let's say block 95, 5 blocks back. I can then in turn change what these transactions look like from that arbitrary point moving forward. Now, this is how a 51% attack functions, but a deep chain reorganization is a bit different in the way that it is not intrinsically malicious and can rather be likened to something similar like selfish mining. So what would cause such a thing, and why would somebody with a majority hashing power behave in such a seemingly irrational way when they do indeed control the majority? Well, here's what we have. This is a hypothesis being put forward by the Ethereum Classic development team that seems to be not demonstrably true, but can be potentially empirically assessed. So, a new ASIC manufacturer called Linji, I believe I pronounced that right, is confirming a test of 1,400 mega hashes on the ETH hash network. Now, this may not sound like a lot, but this is another important component of the ecosystem. Now, why are they building ASIC machines to mine ETH hash if Ethereum Classic has been in such dire straits? Well, this is part of the difficulty of choosing what algorithm to mine with. Now, if you are the majority miner for a particular algorithm, such as Litecoin with Script, then you're pretty well and good. You know, you can rent a bunch of hash to attack this specific network, but it's difficult and it's expensive since there are only so many miners out there, and really 99% of them are looking to turn a profit, since it costs time, money, and energy to do such an activity. And it's a risky gamble. However, there are such coins, and I'm on whattomine.com, and this is a great breakdown of what uses what. And ETH Classic and Ethereum both use ETH hash. Remember, they have this common origin, so it makes sense that the consensus algorithm that they are using did not change. This poses a unique issue. Ethereum has a huge amount of mining. You can see here's the average difficulty. I'm not a miner, so I don't know. I can't navigate this, really reflexively. But you can see the hash difficulty is 2.7 million, whereas for Ethereum Classic, it's only 100,000. So this can potentially, hopefully, help to illustrate the caliber of difference between Ethereum, ETH, and Ethereum Classic in terms of how many machines and how much hash power is behind each network. This means that even if a small percent of the Ethereum mining capacity were to switch and instead start mining Ethereum Classic, one pool or one group of individuals could relatively easily end up comprising the majority of the Ethereum Classic network. So therein lies the issue. You have a minority coin that is using the same algorithm as a monolithic giant like Ethereum, leaving them potentially exposed to a greater amount of hash power available to be targeted at their network. So it's a dangerous game out there in this sense. Now, one workaround for this is Komodo. I speak about them semi-frequently. I think they have a fantastic solution to many issues in the ecosystem, not least of which is their delayed proof of work. Now, Ethereum Classic is a proof of work system, and what this does is it kind of allows you to nestle some proof of work information about the last block in the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, the Bitcoin blockchain has by far the most amount of hashing power, and realistically, it's really difficult, if not near impossible, unless you're a really concerted government actor, to take down or 51% attack the Bitcoin network. So their delayed proof of work system gives a sense of security to other proof of work chains that want to kind of piggyback off of the Bitcoin hashing power. So this could potentially be an interesting solution to the Ethereum Classic team moving forward. Now, I hope I could adequately explain this information and that it made sense. If any of you have any questions about this sort of thing, please leave me a comment below or feel free to join our Discord. We have great discussion going on there, and it's getting more popular by the day. So really great stuff going on, and really it's all thanks to you guys. After all, we wouldn't be a community if it was just me or just two people talking, and then it'd just be a conversation. It's really all about the community and getting this information in the hands of you guys so you can do your own research and share this information with others. Now, speaking of sharing information, fantastic stuff from Origami Oracle, our resident TA expert over at Cryptide. Dude's been doing some great work. You may remember the last call that he made here talking about a potential jump up in price, and I said something along the lines of, we're looking at a shorter time frame here. Who knows what could happen, but what do you think? Let me know below in the comments. Well, turns out that Z called this perfectly. It's Z Origami Oracle. Yeah, he called this perfectly, knocked this out of the park. You've seen a nice pop going on here. So excellent technical analysis going on by Origami Oracle. Just doing great stuff there. So shout out to my buddy there. Fantastic stuff. He's always hanging out in the Cryptide Discord, doing great things. And here we have just a great interview I wanted to share with you guys. Ivan on Tech, you see super popular. Dang, he's approaching 200K subs. That's great. Send some my way, buddy. He has an interview with Tyler Hyperwave Jenks, and this is the guy who talks about the hyperwave theory. This is somebody who Origami Oracle is a seeming fan of. It's a theory that he has put out, helping to apply the hyperwave theory onto Bitcoin and how that may look like going forward over the longer term. So I found this to be a fantastic interview. Maybe you will as well, but yeah, I just wanted to share it with you guys. So with that said, we're kind of running up on time and on information here. Was able to get it into a nice 15-minute roughly segment. So let me know what you thought of this kind of stuff below in the comments, guys. And of course, all of the information below in the description, because again, it's all about empowering you guys to do your own research and share this information with others. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure. We'll be back on the regular conferences here in the next probably week or so. Not much going on, guys. People are gearing up for the new year, as are we. Fantastic stuff happening here. So, much love. We'll talk to you guys soon. My name is Paul. We are Cryptide, and remember, the tide is rising.